The Pop Star and the Barista, Epilogue, by Sasha Clinton. This is meant to be listened to after you have listened to the full audiobook of The Pop Star and the Barista, which is available on my channel. If you haven't read the audiobook, check it out first. Thank you for listening and wish you a Merry Christmas.
1 year later. The snow fell the same way. Soft and steady, coating the town in white, turning the street into a postcard again. Holly and Hearth was even more ridiculous than last year. I had added a second string of lights, a new wreath, and a small cardboard cutout near the register that said, "Ask about our emotionally devastating lattes." "Subtle," Amara said, sipping her drink. "Truth in advertising," I replied. Business had been good. Better than good, actually. Apparently, having a co-writing credit on a song by Nova Ray did things for your streaming numbers and, weirdly, your pastry sales. When her EP dropped in the spring, there was one track, right in the middle, called Holly and Hearth. It was not about Christmas exactly, but the imagery was all there. Snow, coffee, fairy lights, the feeling of stepping into a warm space after being out in the cold too long. At the bottom of the digital credits, my name sat in small, neat letters next to hers. I had cried in the walk-in fridge for a full 5 minutes the day it came out. Her fans had speculated endlessly about the inspiration. She had not confirmed anything publicly, but in one interview, when a host asked about writing the EP, she said, with a little secret smile, "I spent some time in a small town last year. There is a café there that feels like home. This record would not exist without that place, or the person who runs it." I had thrown a dish towel at the TV while Amara screamed. We had managed the distance the way we promised. FaceTime calls in the quiet hours, her hair piled on top of her head, eyeliner smudged, telling me about studio drama while I counted cash in the register. Voice notes with new melody ideas that I listened to while baking at dawn. 3 whirlwind weekends where I caught a train to the city, sat in the back at her shows, and watched the crowd glow under the stage lights while she sang words we had written sitting on my cafe floor in sweatpants. It had not always been easy. Sometimes the time zones sucked. Sometimes her schedule changed without warning. Sometimes my oven broke the same day she had a tabloid story twist her words, and we were both one wrong comment away from crying. But we kept choosing each other. Kept messaging, kept listening, kept sending pictures of ugly latte art and backstage sandwiches and sunsets from moving tour buses. "Are you nervous?" Amara asked now, dragging me back to the present. I adjusted a crooked garland. "About what?" She arched an eyebrow. "About your famous girlfriend coming back to town for Christmas like she promised, and half the younger population is ready to explode if she shows her face?" I pretended to consider. "A little," I admitted. "What if she changed her mind? What if she is too tired? What if she gets snowed in somewhere else? What if she shows up, drinks all your coffee, kisses you in front of Mrs. Briggs, and writes another hit song about your cinnamon rolls? That is the ideal scenario. Manifest it," she said solemnly. The bell above the door chimed. A gust of cold air swept in, along with the flurry of snow. I turned, heart already speeding up in that now familiar way. She stood in the doorway, hood pushed back, cheeks pink from the cold, suitcase at her side. Nova. Her hair was a little shorter than last year, curled around her jaw. She wore a navy coat and an oversized scarf. No sunglasses, no attempt to hide beyond the natural camouflage of small-town indifference. When she saw me, her whole face changed. It lit up like I had turned on another string of lights. "Hey," she said. I was already moving. I rounded the counter and met her halfway, boots squeaking on the floor. She dropped the suitcase handle and opened her arms. I did not bother with words. I walked straight into her hug. She wrapped herself around me, warm and solid and real, the smell of winter air and her perfume filling my nose. I pressed my face into her shoulder, inhaling like someone who had been holding her breath for months. "You came back," I mumbled into her coat. She laughed against my hair. "Of course I came back. I told you I would." I leaned back enough to see her face. Up close, there were tiny new lines near her eyes from smiling, a faint smudge of travel around her lashes. She looked tired, in that I worked hard way, but not drained, not empty. She looked happy. "You look good," I said. "You look like a Christmas witch," she said. "This place is even more decorated than I remember." I added more lights, I said. "I can tell," she said. "The building is visible from space." I grinned. "It is for planes, so you could find me." She rolled her eyes fondly and kissed me. It was not tentative, not testing. It was sure and familiar, the kind of kiss that said, "Hello, I missed you, I am here." I kissed her back, fingers curling in her scarf, all the stored-up longing of months of screens collapsing into this one physical moment. When we broke apart, Amara applauded from behind the counter. She said, 10 out of 10, very cinematic. I especially liked the suitcase prop choice. "Hi, Amara," Nova said, laughing. "Welcome back, pop star. We reserved your corner booth and your favorite mug." "You are the best," Nova said. Mrs. Briggs, seated near the window with her usual tea, raised her cup. "I see my matchmaking was correct," she called. "We matched ourselves," I protested. She just smiled knowingly. We talked then, filling in the gaps that texts and calls could not cover. Nova told me about the tour, the nights that felt electric and the ones that felt more like work, about the meeting where she had insisted on final say over what songs made the album and how it had felt to win, about the fans who had held up signs with lyrics from Holly and Hearth at shows. I told her about the café, about the new kid I hired part-time, about the time the espresso machine actually did break and the whole town treated it like a natural disaster, about the songwriting workshop I had started hosting on Wednesday nights, where teenagers brought in notebooks and shyly shared verses. "You are building a tiny queer artist factory," she said, eyes bright. "That is the unofficial tagline," I said. In the afternoon, when the rush died down, we sat at the piano again. This time, she took the bench with me, without hesitation, thigh pressed against mine, our hands brushing on the keys. "Okay," she said, "pitch me something." I played a new progression I'd been working on, something a little brighter, hopeful without being naive. Her face lit up. I like that. Keep going." We wrote there in the corner of the cafe while regulars came and went and the snow piled up outside. People glanced over and smiled, recognizing her now, but no one interrupted. They had adopted her as part of the scenery, apparently. At one point, a teen girl with a rainbow pin on her backpack hovered nearby. She took a breath and approached. Hi. I just wanted to say, your song, the cafe one, it made me feel less weird about staying here after graduation. So, thanks. Both of you." She looked at me when she said it. My throat tightened. "Thank you for saying that," I managed. Nova smiled at her. "You know you are allowed to build something amazing right here, right? You don't have to move to a big city to matter." The girl nodded, eyes shining, and retreated to her table. "Look at you, local legend," I whispered. "Us," she corrected. The day slid toward evening. The tree lights glowed brighter. Someone outside started humming a carol. The clock on the wall ticked in its familiar rhythm. As we closed up, the two of us alone again in the soft glow, I leaned against the counter and watched her move around the cafe like she belonged. She caught me staring. "What?" she asked. "Nothing," I said. "Just having a moment." She walked over, stepped between my knees where I sat on a stool, and rested her hands on my hips. "Want to narrate it?" she asked. I looped my arms around her neck. Just thinking about how last year this felt impossible, that a woman who lived in my headphones would be here, in my space, looking at me like this. "Like what?" she prompted. "Like I'm a good decision," I said. Her expression softened in that way that still made my heart flip. "You are my favorite decision, ever." "That is a high-stakes compliment," I said. "You once cut your hair on impulse, and it looked incredible. That was a big decision." She laughed. "This is bigger." She kissed me again, slow and sure, and the world outside the windows blurred into shapes of light and snow. Later, when we walked home together through the quiet streets, her hand warm in mine, the cafe lights off behind us, but still glowing faintly in the reflection, I realized something. My life had not turned into a movie. The bills still existed. The oven would still break sometimes. Her team would still send annoying emails. We would still argue about bridge sections and whether or not I put too much nutmeg in seasonal drinks. But I had exactly what I used to write about in songs I never finished. A love that felt both extraordinary and ordinary at the same time. A girlfriend who belonged to the world and still chose my tiny corner of it. A cafe that was not just a job, but a place where stories began. A pop star walked into my cafe on Christmas, and somehow, impossibly, she had fallen for me. The miracle was not that it happened. The miracle was that we kept choosing it, year after year, cup after cup, song after song. I squeezed her hand. "Come on, let's go home." She smiled, snow catching in her hair like glitter. "I'm already there," she said. And she was.